The prenuptial agreement was 32 pages long, and my daughter had no idea it existed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The coffee was still hot when I found the wedding invoice on my desk. Someone had slipped it under my front door, itemized, highlighted, with a yellow sticky note in my daughter's handwriting. Dad, this needs to be paid by Friday. Don't embarrass me. $147,000. For a wedding. I set it beside the photograph of my late wife, Catherine. She was laughing in that picture, taken at our own wedding. A backyard ceremony that cost $300, including her dress from a consignment shop and the cake her mother baked. She gets it from somewhere, I said to Catherine's smile. But it wasn't from you. My hands wrapped around the mug, calloused from the years I'd worked construction, then real estate development, building a fortune Catherine and I had planned to use helping others. The foundation we'd started, the scholarships, the community center that bore her name. 63 years old now, but I could still remember mixing concrete at dawn, Catherine bringing me coffee in a thermos, believing when the banks wouldn't. My daughter Melissa was 31, my only child, the center of our world until Catherine died 5 years ago, and something in Melissa shifted. Or maybe it had always been there, and Catherine's grace had hidden it. The wedding was in 6 weeks. Melissa was marrying Connor Walsh, old money, trust fund, the kind of wealth that didn't require work. They'd been engaged 8 months, and I'd met him twice. Both times he'd looked at my gray suit and sensible car with thinly veiled amusement. My phone rang. Melissa, did you get the invoice? No greeting. I did. And you'll handle it by Friday? The venue needs the final payment. I looked at the itemized list. $20,000 for flowers. $35,000 for catering. $15,000 for photography. A $12,000 dress. Melissa, this is excessive. It's my wedding, Dad. The Walsh family has expectations. Connor's parents are paying for the rehearsal dinner and the honeymoon. The least you can do is cover the actual wedding. The least I can do. You know what I mean. You're not poor. Mom left you everything, and you've just been sitting on it. The words landed like stones. Your mother and I built that money to matter. To help people. To help me, your daughter, have the wedding I deserve. Her voice sharpened. Or are scholarships for strangers more important than your own child's happiness? I closed my eyes. I'll think about it. There's nothing to think about. Pay the invoice or don't come to the wedding. And if you're not at the wedding, don't expect to be in your grandchildren's lives. The line went dead. I sat in the quiet house, too quiet since Catherine died, and pulled out the file I kept in my desk. The one Melissa didn't know about. Catherine had insisted on it 3 years before she died, when Melissa started dating men who measured worth in stock portfolios and country club memberships. Something's wrong, Catherine had said. She's not the girl we raised. She's finding her way. No, she's losing her way. And Robert, if something happens to me, you're too soft-hearted. You'll give her everything because you're lonely, and she'll take it because she's entitled. Catherine had touched my face. Promise me you'll protect what we built. Promise me you won't let grief make you foolish. So we'd created the trust. Complex, ironclad, designed by the best estate attorneys money could buy. Everything Catherine and I had built, $42 million in assets, property, investments, went into a structure Melissa couldn't touch until she met specific conditions. Conditions she'd never asked about because she assumed the money would simply be hers. The doorbell rang. Melissa stood on my porch, designer handbag, perfect hair, looking like Catherine but with none of her warmth. We need to talk, she said, walking past me into the house. I followed her to the living room. She didn't sit. Connor's mother asked if you'd paid the invoice yet. I told her you were handling it, but she could tell I was unsure. Do you understand how humiliating that was? Melissa, no, listen. I have been patient with you. I understand you miss Mom. I understand you're lonely and you're struggling with getting older. But this is my life. This is my future. And I need you to step up and be my father. Each word was surgical, precise. I am your father, which is why I need you to understand. I understand perfectly. You're punishing me for moving on, for being happy, for finding someone who can give me the life I want. She crossed her arms. Mom would be ashamed. The room went still. Your mother, I said quietly, would never have approved of a $147,000 wedding while people go hungry. Mom's dead. Her opinion doesn't matter anymore. I stood, walked to my desk, pulled out the trust documents. Before your mother died, she and I made arrangements. Legal arrangements regarding the estate. I know. Everything comes to me. The house, the investments, the foundation. Nothing comes to you automatically. Melissa's face went blank. What? I handed her the first page. Your mother was smarter than both of us. She knew someday we'd be standing here, and she made sure I couldn't be manipulated by threats about grandchildren I've never met. Melissa read fast, her expression shifting from confusion to shock to rage. You can't. This isn't real. It's very real. And if you want to discuss the wedding, we can. But first, you need to understand exactly what your mother left you. I pulled out the full trust document. Sit down, Melissa. This is going to take a while. Melissa sat. The trust document spread across the coffee table like evidence at a trial. Catherine's handwriting was in the margins, notes she'd made while our attorneys drafted the terms. I could still see her, glasses perched on her nose, questioning every clause, making sure it was airtight. Your mother left you nothing directly, I said. Everything is in trust. Melissa's hands shook as she read. This says I can't access any of it until I'm 45. That's 14 years. Unless you meet specific conditions earlier. I pulled out the highlighted sections Catherine had marked. Condition 1. You must work in a nonprofit or public service role for a minimum of 5 consecutive years, earning your own living without family financial support. Condition 2. You must demonstrate financial literacy by living within a budget equal to the median household income for 1 full year, with verified expenses and savings. Condition 3. You must contribute documented volunteer service, 500 hours minimum, to organizations serving underprivileged communities. Condition 4. You must maintain stable, respectful family relationships, as determined by the trustee. That's me, Melissa. I decide if you've met that one. Her face had gone white. This is insane. This is your mother loving you enough to teach you what we failed to teach while she was alive. I kept my voice level. You can access funds for education, medical emergencies, and basic living expenses. But the bulk of the estate, including the family home, the investment portfolio, and control of the foundation, remains locked until you've proven you understand the value of work, sacrifice, and service. You're punishing me for wanting a nice wedding. I'm holding you accountable for threatening to weaponize my grandchildren, for saying your mother would be ashamed of me, for treating $42 million like an ATM machine. Melissa stood, pacing. Connor's family will think we're poor. They'll think I'm marrying him for the right reasons instead of combining bank accounts. She spun to face me. You don't understand. His world, the people we socialize with, image matters. Money matters. This wedding is an investment in our future. Then Connor can invest in it. His family is paying for. No, Connor can pay for it. From his own money. If he loves you. I paused. Or you can have a wedding within your budget. The trust allows me to contribute up to $10,000 towards significant life events. I'll write you a check today. $10,000. The flowers alone cost $20. Then choose different flowers. Melissa grabbed her back. You're really doing this. You're really going to humiliate me in front of the Walshes, in front of everyone I know, because of some sick control game. I'm honoring your mother's wishes. She saw this coming, Melissa. She saw you choosing appearance over substance, and she loved you too much to let it destroy you. She's dead. She doesn't get a vote. She does when it's written into irrevocable legal documents. Melissa headed for the door, then stopped. Fine. I'll contest it. I'll sue. I'll break the trust. You can try. Your mother anticipated that. Section 12 outlines the penalty for legal challenges. Automatic forfeiture of all discretionary distributions, and the contested amount goes directly to charity. You'll get your 45-year-old payout, but nothing before. No education support. No medical emergency funds. Nothing. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Who are you? I'm the man who loved your mother enough to honor her wisdom, even when it breaks my heart. My voice cracked despite my control. Do you think I want this? You're my daughter. My only child. I'd give you anything. And that's exactly what your mother knew. She made these rules because I wouldn't. Because she loved you more than I apparently do. That's not love. That's cruelty. Love is preparing you for a life that means something. Cruelty is giving you millions of dollars and watching you become someone your mother wouldn't recognize. Melissa's eyes filled with tears, but they were rage, not sadness. I'm marrying Connor with or without your money. And when we have children, You'll never meet them. You'll die alone in this house, surrounded by your principals and mom's ghost. And it'll be exactly what you deserve." She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I sat in the silence, holding Catherine's photograph. "I hope I did this right," I whispered. The wedding invitations arrived 2 weeks later. Revised date, smaller venue, simpler design. Still expensive by any reasonable measure, but not obscene. Connor's name was on the return address. No mention of his parents' estate address like the first batch. I wasn't invited. I spent the next month working at the Catherine Morrison Community Center, the facility my wife had founded for job training and family services. I sat in on GED classes, helped interview scholarship candidates, approved funding for a single mother's nursing school tuition. This was what Catherine had wanted the money to do. This was the legacy she'd built. But at night, the house was too quiet. I found myself in Melissa's old room sometimes, looking at childhood photos. Birthday parties Catherine had planned. Science fair projects we'd worked on together. A daughter who'd laughed easily and cared about things beyond status symbols. When had we lost her? 3 days before the wedding, my doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. Connor Walsh stood on my porch, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Mr. Morrison, can we talk?" I let him in. Made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table. "Melissa doesn't know I'm here," Connor said. "She'd be furious." "So why are you?" He wrapped his hands around the mug. They were soft, uncalloused, hands that had never done hard labor. But his eyes were uncertain. "I need to know if the trust thing is real. If Melissa really doesn't have access to her inheritance." I studied him. "Why does that matter?" "Because I need to know who I'm marrying." He met my eyes. "Is she marrying me for me, or for what my family has? I need to know if she'd love me without the money." It was the first genuine thing I'd heard him say. "The trust is real." Every word. "Your wife will have substantial assets when she meets the conditions or turns 45, but nothing before." Connor nodded slowly. "And if she doesn't marry me? If she called off the wedding? That wouldn't change anything. The trust terms are fixed." He sat back, processing. Then, quietly, "She's been different since you two fought. Angry, but also scared. She keeps talking about proving you wrong, showing you she doesn't need your money. Does she need yours?" "I don't know anymore." He stood. "Thank you for the coffee." At the door he paused. "For what it's worth, I think your wife was smart. The world Melissa wants to enter, my world, it eats people. Makes them forget what matters. Maybe this trust is the only thing that can save her from that." He left. I didn't know what to make of the conversation, so I put it aside and focused on the foundation work. The wedding happened without me. I saw photos later, posted by friends of friends. Small ceremony, maybe 50 people. Melissa looked beautiful. Connor looked attentive. It seemed genuine, but I couldn't tell through a screen. 2 months passed. Silence. Then one morning, I arrived at the community center to find Melissa in the lobby. She stood beside the bronze plaque that bore her mother's name, Catherine Morrison, believer in second chances. I stopped in the doorway. "The director said you volunteer here 3 days a week," Melissa said. She wasn't looking at me, just the plaque. "I didn't know that. Your mother started this place. Someone should keep it running. She used to bring me here when I was little. I remember playing with kids in the daycare while she taught resume workshops." Melissa's voice was soft. "I haven't thought about that in years." I waited. "Connor and I have been living in his apartment. Not the family estate. A normal apartment." She finally turned to me. 2 bedrooms, normal building. "He got a job. Actual job. Not a position at his father's company. He's working in financial planning. How's that going?" "He hates it. The hours, the intra-level salary, the commute." She smiled, but it was complicated. "But he's trying. For us. To prove we can build something ourselves. That's admirable." I got a job too. Administrative assistant at a nonprofit literacy organization. $22 an hour. She said it like a confession. "It's hard. Budgeting, I mean. We actually have to think about groceries. About whether we can afford to eat out. Your mother and I lived that way for 15 years. "I know. I'm starting to understand that." She moved closer to the plaque. Connor asked me what mom was like. Really like, not the version I told him about. The society wife, the foundation board president. He wanted to know who she was before all that. "What did you tell him?" I realized I didn't know. I only remembered the later years, when we had money. I forgot she was a night shift nurse. That she sewed her own clothes. That she worked 3 jobs while you built the business. Melissa's eyes filled. I forgot she was real. I stepped closer. She was the most real person I ever knew. I've been reading the trust documents. Really reading them, with a lawyer. And I found Mom's handwritten notes in the margins. Melissa pulled out folded papers. She wrote things like, make sure she learns to work, and protect her from herself, and don't let her become cruel. She unfolded one page, pointing to Catherine's handwriting. This one says, our daughter is kind underneath. She just forgot. Help her remember. Melissa's voice broke. Did I become cruel? I wanted to lie, to comfort. But Catherine would want truth. You became entitled. Unkind. You threatened to keep my grandchildren from me over a wedding invoice. She nodded, tears falling. I said Mom would be ashamed of you. I can't believe I said that. You were angry. I was awful. She wiped her eyes. Connor told me about coming here. About asking if the trust was real. He said he needed to know I'd love him without his money. Do you? I'm learning to. We're learning together. She managed a shaky smile. Turns out being married is hard when you actually have to work as a team instead of just spending family money on fancy things. I studied my daughter, really looked at her. She wore simple clothes, minimal makeup. She looked tired but present in a way she hadn't been in years. Why are you here, Melissa? I want to volunteer. For the center. I called the director and asked about opportunities. She met my eyes. I need to meet the trust conditions eventually, but that's not why. I need to remember who Mom was. Who she raised me to be before I forgot. Something in my chest loosened. Your mother would like that. Will you help me? Not with the trust. I need to do that myself. But with remembering. I want to hear the stories. About your wedding. About the early years. About who she was when she was working night shifts and believing in you. I thought about Catherine's final weeks, when she'd gripped my hand and made me promise to honor the trust, to not let grief make me weak. She was worried this would drive you away forever. I said. That you'd hate us both and we'd lose you. You almost did. I was so angry. Melissa's voice steadied. But then I had to actually live in the real world, and I started to see what she was trying to teach me. And Dad, I'm so sorry. For what I said, for how I treated you, for forgetting what actually matters. I pulled her into a hug. She collapsed into it, crying the way she used to as a child when she needed comfort. Your mother left instructions for me too, I said. She told me not to give up on you. To trust that the girl we raised was still in there somewhere. I'm trying to find her again. We spent the afternoon at the center. I introduced Melissa to the staff, to the families using the services. She signed up to help with the after-school program, the same one she'd played in as a child. Over the following months, I watched my daughter transform. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily. She worked her nonprofit job, volunteered 15 hours a week at the center, learned to budget. Connor joined her sometimes, and I saw them become partners in the real sense, supporting each other through struggles instead of just enjoying privileges together. Melissa asked questions about Catherine, about our early years, our struggles, our dreams. We'd have coffee on Sunday mornings, and I'd tell her stories. She'd laugh at things I'd forgotten were funny, pry at Catherine's small kindnesses. She used to leave notes in your lunch, Melissa remembered once. When I was in elementary school, I thought it was embarrassing, but all the other kids were jealous. She left notes in mine too. Every single day for 40 years. 1 year into her volunteer work, Melissa came to me with a proposal. The center needs expanded childcare. Working parents need longer hours, more flexibility. I've been researching costs, potential funding sources, community partnerships. She spread documents across my kitchen table. I want to use my trust education allowance to get a nonprofit management degree, and I want to eventually work here full-time. Make this my career. I looked at the research, thorough, thoughtful, exactly the kind of work Catherine would have done. Your mother would love this. I know. I feel like I'm finally doing something she'd be proud of. She was always proud of you. She just wanted you to be proud of yourself. The foundation board approved Melissa's proposal. The expanded childcare center opened 2 years later, named the Catherine Morrison Early Learning Center. Melissa ran it. She earned her degree while working, graduated with honors, built a program that served 200 families. Connor eventually left financial planning and joined a micro-lending nonprofit. They bought a modest house with a mortgage they actually had to pay. They argued about money sometimes, budgeted carefully, learned to make sacrifices. They became real. On what would have been Catherine's 68th birthday, Melissa and Connor came to dinner. Melissa was 7 months pregnant. We've been talking about names, she said. If it's a girl, we'd like to name her Catherine. If that's okay with you. I couldn't speak for a moment. Your mother would be honored. After they left, I sat with Catherine's photograph and the trust documents. You were right, I told her, smile. About all of it. The tough love, the conditions, the faith that our girl was still in there. You saved her by refusing to make it easy. The trust still governed Melissa's access to the full inheritance. She wouldn't reach 45 for 11 more years. But she'd met 3 of the 4 conditions already. The 4th, maintaining respectful family relationships, was measured in Sunday morning coffee, in volunteer shifts side by side, in the way she'd started calling just to talk instead of just to ask. When baby Catherine was born, I held my granddaughter in the same hospital where her grandmother had worked night shifts 50 years earlier. Your great-grandmother would have loved you, I whispered. She was the smartest, kindest, strongest person I ever knew. And your mother is becoming more like her every day. Melissa watched from the hospital bed, exhausted and radiant. Thank you for not giving up on me, Dad. For honoring Mom's trust, even when I hated you for it. Your mother knew what she was doing. She always did. I still live in the same house. Still wear the gray suit to foundation events. Still make coffee every morning and talk to Catherine's photograph about how her daughter has grown. The money sits in trust, managed wisely, doing the work. Catherine envisioned. The community center serves thousands. The scholarships help hundreds. And Melissa runs the early learning center with the same passionate dedication her mother brought to everything. Some evenings, 3 generations gather in my living room. Melissa brings little Catherine. Connor brings dinner, he actually cooked himself. We eat together, talk about real things, laugh about struggles that matter. This is what Catherine wanted. Not perfection, but purpose. Not wealth, but wisdom. A daughter who understands that the greatest inheritance isn't money, it's character. The trust documents sit in my desk drawer, alongside Catherine's photograph. They'll govern for 11 more years, but they've already done their work. They transform threats into understanding, entitlement into gratitude, cruelty into kindness. On quiet mornings when I drink my coffee and remember the woman who loved me enough to make the hard choices I couldn't, I know we built something that lasted. Not despite the difficulty, but because Catherine was brave enough to believe that sometimes love looks like locked doors and impossible conditions, and faith that the person you're protecting will eventually understand. She was right. She always was. And in the gray morning light, with my granddaughter's laughter echoing from a recent visit and my daughter's genuine transformation visible in every choice she makes, I can meet Catherine's eyes in that photograph and know we kept our promises. To each other. To our daughter, to the values that matter more than any inheritance. That's enough. That will always be enough.